And we are live as well.
We are live. Good morning, everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific information session. This is our final session of this cycle. So again, a warm welcome to all of you joining us. My name is Frederick Nyberg. I'm the Managing Director for MedTech Innovator APAC based here in Singapore. The purpose of today's session is to make sure that those of you who may have begun an application for MedTech Innovator 2026, but have not yet completed it, we're giving you a little bit of more time to get that done, and we're telling you a bit more about what the program entails. And we're extremely honored to have Nikki Agahari here, CEO from Australia Scientific, our 2025 program winner. Welcome, Nikki, and you'll hear more from him. He'll be in a fireside chat with our Senior Director of Programs, Glenn Lim, in just a moment. So if we go to the agenda slide, Narissa, thank you for that. What we'll cover on today's call is a general introduction to MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific, so that will take maybe 10 minutes or so, and then I will hand over to my colleague Glenn, who will have that fireside chat with Nikki, CEO at Australia Scientific. And I believe they will cover topics that such as latest achievements and progress at Australia Scientific, as well as the journey that they've been through in the MedTech Innovator program in 2025. So next slide, please. For those of you not familiar with MedTech Innovator, we are the world's largest competition and accelerator for traditional medical devices, digital health, and in vitro diagnostics. What you see on this photo is the grand finals event that took place here in Singapore on the 28th of October. And you'll see somewhere in the middle of that slide, Nikki holding a check of $175,000. Much of what we do, it is industry-led, so we have close partnerships with all of the corporates that you see here at the bottom of your screen. And they play a key role throughout the year, not just as sponsors and supporters of the program, but they review applications as they come in. They play an active role judging and reviewing, sitting in on our pitch events, and they play an active role as mentors to the startups in our cohort, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. Next slide, please. A few key statistics. If we look at the right-hand side of the screen, we have 838 alumni companies globally at MedTech Innovator, and about 154 of those are from Asia Pacific. 93% of these are still in business or have been acquired, which is an incredible success rate. These companies have gone on to raise close to $11 billion in follow-on equity. There have been 60 outright acquisition. 35% of applicants typically generate revenue, but we do, as you'll see later, we do accept earlier stage companies in our cohort as well. 1 in 4 of all investment dollars that globally went into the MedTech sector in 2024 were invested into MedTech Innovator alumni. On the left-hand side, some quick numbers there. We have a pool of well over 500 industry reviewers and judges and mentors. And of course, the Asia Pacific program, which is the focus of today's conversation, has been running since 2019. It is a 4-month virtual accelerator, and we give away $300,000 in awards and prizes at the end of the process. Next slide, please. Without going into this in too much detail, I just wanted to flag that for the MedTech Innovator APAC program, of course, we do have great representation from the Asia Pacific markets, but you do not need to be necessarily based there. You can be based elsewhere in the Middle East, in Europe, in North America. so long as you have a strategic interest in APAC. And that may be an investor in the region. It may be that you're working on an Asian prevalent disease. It may be that you are working with, let's say, a CDMO that is based here in the region. In terms of development stages, you see that most of our applicants are at seed or Series A, but we do have a growing number of applications that come in from companies that are at Series B or C. So we do cover a broad range of companies, and our cohort typically is a very diverse mix of companies, some earlier stage and some later stage. So if you think that you are too early, don't worry. You'll see here that we do accept earlier stage companies as well. And if you've already raised $25 million, that's okay too. You are more than welcome to apply. Next slide, please. So this is the typical process. We are now at the stage when we're accepting applications until the 16th of January. That's our extended deadline. The road tour, which is when we invite 60 or so companies to pitch, will begin in March and go on through to April and May. We will have 2 virtual pitch events, and we will have 2 in-person pitch events. We'll talk more about that in a minute. At the end of the pitch process and the road tour, we will then select the 20 best companies for the accelerator, and the accelerator program then takes place June through to October, where in October we'll have 4 or 5 finalists compete for the grand prize, and 1 grand prize winner walking away with $175,000. And of course, our 2025 winner will be joining us in a moment, and you'll hear from him directly. Next slide, please. Again, without going through this in too much detail, you'll find this information on our website under the FAQ section. These are some of the metrics that we look at as we evaluate applications. So we look at a number of parameters across the dimensions of value, execution, and momentum. They may range from value proposition, health economics, to your business model, regulatory pathway, commercial traction, and operational readiness. So a broad number of parameters that our reviewers and our judges look at, and you might want to keep that in mind as you complete your submission. This is what the timeline looks like. We are now just wrapping up our call for applications. So the special extended deadline is the 16th of January, and that is for those of you who have started an application but have not yet completed it. We are giving you an additional couple of weeks to get that wrapped up. And that's really the purpose of this information session. The road tour, as I mentioned earlier, will kick off in March and conclude in April. Our first pitch event is online. Our last pitch event is, our third pitch event is online as well. And in between, we have our new pitch event in Seoul, South Korea on the 19th to 20th of March. And we have our MedTech Innovator Spotlight in-person pitch event in Singapore on the 14th and 15th of April. We kick off, once the cohort companies have been selected, we will kick that off with our Global Innovator Summit in San Francisco, and that happens in the beginning of June. And the accelerator program, as I mentioned earlier, will then run June through to October. 26th of October is tentatively the date for our 2026 Grand Finals event. Next slide, please. This is just to give you a flavor of what those road tour and pitch event sessions look like. As I mentioned earlier, some of them are online, some of them are in person. If you have a chance to attend our in-person events, they, of course, are much better. They're better for you. They're better for the judges. You have the opportunity to interact directly with them. Plus, you have an opportunity to interact and socialize with some of your peers and the broader ecosystem, both in Singapore as well as in 2026 in Seoul, South Korea. Next slide, please. This is our summit photo that was taken of all of our cohorts across the US, Asia Pacific, as well as our BioTools cohort. We had 124 companies there across 3 days in 2025 when this photo was taken. And the dates for 26 will be 3rd to 5th of June. And this is mandatory for everyone who joins the cohort. Next slide, please. So the two key components in our accelerator program, one is our educational program, where we have a series of educational webinars. Glenn will talk to Nikki more about this in a moment. But the topics range from raising capital to working with strategics to setting up perhaps a local legal entity in the US to building commercial infrastructure to reimbursement, regulatory strategy, and much more. Next slide, please. The second part of our virtual accelerator program, of course, is the mentorship. There will be one-on-one mentorship for each of our participating companies. Some participating cohort companies will have the benefit of having more than one mentor, in some cases 2 or 3. And they will be either our corporate partners or our service provider partners, or some of our ecosystem partners. But they will all be senior executives that have deep domain expertise in your particular field. And in the case of the manufacturers, they will be senior executives from corporates that have specifically asked to work with you during the mentorship part of the program. Next slide, please. Again, you'll see more of this. You'll have more of this information on our website. We spoke about the educational curriculum and the mentorship. There are, of course, other resources and funding opportunities, recognition, visibility, and the broader community that you'll benefit from as well. And it's rather than having me talk about this, I'll have Glenn speak to Nikki about that in just a moment. Next slide, please. Finally, some slides from some photos from some of our events. Some of these are from our pitch event, some are from our Innovator Summit in the US, as well as from our grand finals. And I think on the next slide, you'll see Nikki being passed the check as the grand prize winner 2025 of $175,000. Here he is together with Paul Grand, our global CEO, as well as Mark Chang, who was our 2024 winner, which was Mark is the CTO at a company in Taiwan called APAC. They won in 2024, but of course now you'll hear from Nikki, our 2025 winner. Next slide, please. And of course, here is the grand finals event with all of our winners. So this is the again, the special extension here, deadline extended until the 16th of January for those of you who have begun your application but not yet completed it. So we want you to get you all across the finish line and get that application completed and submitted. And in order for you to do that, we're giving you an additional 2 weeks to get that complete. So you'll also have the opportunity to ask some questions here at the end of this session. And with the next slide, you will have the QR code for the application. But of course, for most of you on this call, you will already have begun your applications and therefore already have your login details and so on. And we'll go to the next slide. I'll hand over to Glenn at this point. He'll talk a bit about the application portal for those of you who may have begun the process but not completed this yet. And Glenn will then continue with the fireside chat with Nikki in just a moment. Glenn, over to you.
Thank you so much, Frederick. So I think it's my pleasure as well to welcome Nikki on board, CEO of Australia Scientific. And if we go to the next slide, I think you will see the QR code. I think feel free to scan this. If not, I think we can go into fireside chat mode. Thank you so much, Bernice. Nikki, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us, even though it's really late at night for you in the US. Maybe we can start by introducing yourself and maybe what Australia Scientific does and what are some of the sexy, exciting updates that you have for us.
Hey, Glenn, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to join you and for the opportunity to encourage some of the future innovators to jump on MedTech Innovators Asia Pacific. My name is Nick Agahari. my accent is Australian. I grew up in Australia, did all my schooling in Australia, but I'm currently living and working in the United States right now in Boston. I'll go quickly into my background, just touching a little bit. My background has been, a lot of it been in MedTech. I've worked for a lot of the larger MedTech companies at Medtronic, Boston Scientific, and Johnson & Johnson. I've had a wide range of roles in the medical devices field. At Medtronic, I led sales and marketing for neuromodulation. In Boston Scientific, I was fortunate to go into a post-MBA program. It's called the Global Leadership Program, where I was rotated through things like sales, marketing, corporate research, supply chain, manufacturing, and I got to see a whole breadth of the whole MedTech industry. And whilst I was stationed in China, leading the innovation team for Boston Scientific, unfortunately, COVID happened. I was locked down. We couldn't do any research and development. And an opportunity came for me to go to Harvard Medical School into a program known as the Harvard Health Tech Fellowship. And that's really where Australis Scientific was born out of. It's a biodesign-based fellowship program where me and a team of fellows went and deep dived into a particular unmet clinical need, and that was urinary incontinence. And that really started the company. So Australis Scientific is developing a product called the Confident Smart Patch. The Confident Smart Patch is a discrete solution for patients suffering from urinary incontinence. And the biggest issue for patients with suffering incontinence is that it's quite an embarrassing procedure. It's embarrassing symptoms as well as a disease state. It affects a lot of aging patients, and they usually suffer in silence. A lot of them don't want to get a diagnosis. And what we've been able to do is create a discrete solution for them. We've developed a smart patch that sits on their ankle. And what that smart patch is able to do, it's able to deliver specific therapeutic stimulation to a nerve called the tibial nerve. And that normalizes the signal from the ankle up to the sacral plexus where the bladder is, and normalizes the afferent communication, or the communication between the bladder and the brain itself. Allows the pons micturition center in the brain, the center that controls urinary function in the brain, to make the decision when it's the appropriate time for the patients to go. We're currently halfway through our clinical trial with really good results. So that's the update, that our midpoint readout is trending the right direction. We've been quite bullish. We've been able to close some more investment dollars as a result of the network that was made during MedTech Innovators Asia Pacific. And the other great thing is we've been able to leverage a lot of the relationships we've built with the key strategics introduced through MedTech Innovators to progress that discussion. The strategics may not always be the first money in as a smaller startup, but they may become a strategic partner, or they may become an acquirer. So we're glad to have those doors open through MedTech Innovators.
No, thank you so much. And of course, it would not be possible without you and the other 19 companies' active participation in the program as well. But I think we completely agree with you, right? And it's one of the reasons why we do work very closely with these strategics, so that startups and great startups like Australia Scientific will be able to have, I think, the early conversations with a lot of these strategic partners itself. And maybe later on in your journey, I'll get you to speak a little bit more about the mentorship that you had with BD through the program itself. But yes, thank you so much. And I think quite recently you've had quite a big investment by Roto as well. Would you want to share with our audience a little bit more about that exciting news?
Sure. One of our lead investors, Roto Pharmaceuticals, it's a Japanese pharmaceutical company, saw the strategy that we were going after in terms of targeting a situation where the aging population are the populations that are going to be suffering from urinary incontinence. In fact, it's 80% of patients over the age of 70. What they saw fit was that they were targeting the Japanese population, where close to 30% of the Japanese population is age over 65. And that trend is going to continue to increase. In fact, by 2050, nearly 50% of all Japanese will be over the age of 65. So as they saw their consumer base move towards an aging population, they wanted to invest in novel technology that could be accessed by their aging consumer base. And they saw fit to make quite a large investment. And this is a numerous tranche investment because they see our technology becoming a platform technology, with urinary incontinence being our first indication. And we're continuing to explore other indications such as fecal incontinence, such as hypertension management and mental health management, all using our Confident Smart Patch platform technology.
No, and congratulations. I think you achieved the milestone, I think, quite shortly after completing the MedTech Innovator program. So we're really, really happy for you as well.
No, it's definitely the exposure from the program and the public relations is not something that you can easily get. No matter how much capital you put into PR. I think winning and standing out and getting validation that has been vetted through industry experts, including the strategic, speaks volumes when you're looking to raise capital.
No, definitely. And I think you brought up a very interesting point as well, because I think at MedTech Innovator, we don't put four judges in front of you and get four experts to judge all the startups that are coming through the program, right? We really get different industry experts that are relevant to your specific area of interest, to be able to give you quality feedback and to be able to give us at MedTech Innovator some quality feedback as well with regards to which companies we should select. So I wanted to maybe pick your brain as well on how you found the entire process of application, and did you get any good feedback when you were pitching for a slot at the top 20 for the MedTech Innovator program?
Definitely. I think the first thing is the biggest barrier to actually applying is it's quite a comprehensive application package. And it's designed that way to allow you to think through what stage of your life cycle you are as a startup, because you are going to be competing with world-class companies, with world-class founders and CTOs. And unless you're able to overcome that barrier and just put the work in, it's hard. I know it's a long process, but I do recommend just spending 3-4 hours, sit down and get it done. I know for most of the potential applicants, they're probably halfway or 3/4 of the way through, and they're thinking, am I ready for this? You're definitely ready. There's no other time like now to get the voice and your message out there. I think there may be some hesitation because you're thinking, will my application stand out? There's only one way to find out. Apply. I always get the question of, hey, how did you get into a program at Harvard? And it's easy. You just say, you apply, because you never know. And it's the same thing with MedTech Innovators. Unless you apply, you're not going to know whether you're going to get in or not. So I highly recommend that you just put in the effort, get it done. Second to that, I really wanted to position ourselves with our best foot forward. I think online meetings are great. I think our team specifically chose to present in person, and I get that there may be financial commitments, time commitments, family commitments that may not allow you to be present in South Korea this year or in Singapore. If you have the opportunity to present in person, please do so. I think the relationships that you build during that time will start to form the early bonds of which strategics, which consultants, which advisors, and having that initial face-to-face moment really stands out. I don't think there's any limitations if you don't show up in person. I don't think you're discredited in any way, way or form. But if you do have the opportunity, highly recommend the in-person, just to build the network for yourself, the advisors.
Yes, I remember, I think you flew into Singapore to pitch. And I'm glad those connections were very useful. And you're right. I just want to reassure all our audience that no matter if you pitch in person or online, you will not be disadvantaged in any way. But I think it's exactly what Nikki has mentioned, right? I think beyond the pitching, it's a really good opportunity to to get to know some of these judges that are professionals in their own right, and will become or could become really, really good connections down the line, be it whether you're raising your next funding cycle, or if you're looking for a consultant to solve a particular problem, or even to build that initial relationship with that strategic that is there judging you making that selection itself. You really want to get these good connections, and it's really difficult sometimes to meet all these great people in one particular location. So I'm really, really glad that that's been very useful for you, because I think for every about 30 startups, we get between 60 to 70 physical judges, just to be able to cover the wide range of different types of companies coming to pitch at our pitch events itself.
Mm.
And of course, through that, you were selected by quite a number of our judges, which is why Australia Scientific did end up progressing to the top 20 cohort company itself. So congratulations on that front. And of course, then in June, you joined us in Mountain View, San Francisco for our summit. So the summit was what Frederick has mentioned earlier, where all our companies across all our three programs, so the MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific program, our US program, as well as our BioTools program, will join us in the US for that, I would say, consolidated conference that's organized exclusively by MedTech Innovator itself. So you flew all the way to the US from Australia. How was that, and why did you decide to be there with us?
I think it's first of all, it's an amalgamation of not just the MedTech Innovators APAC. It combines it with the MedTech Innovators US cohort.
Mhm.
And it brings along all the experts around the world into the one location. If you're building something in MedTech, I think you always build and innovate locally to begin with, but you always want to create something for the global market. And
Mhm.
there's no bigger global market than the United States healthcare system. It's a complex beast, and understanding the nuance and being able to speak to the key experts in person in Mountain View really unlocks a lot of opportunity there. The US healthcare system is so complex that even within reimbursement, within regulatory, within market access, there are different nuances on how you are able to get traction, how you should be piloting. And I think the limitation is unless you are able to form those relationships and build the communication and update the investors and the key decision makers, it's really hard for you to progress your innovation. And I think I may have a US-centric lens to this, but it's true in all the big medtech companies that I've worked for, that the majority of revenue driven by any large medtech company, over 60 to 70% of that revenue comes from the US healthcare system. And that's why it's important for all startups to focus on building for their health ecosystem, but to also be building in parallel for the US healthcare system. And if I had to pick one healthcare system that I would want to gain entry into, it's the US healthcare system.
No, I think you make a very valid point. And it's also one of the reasons why MedTech Innovator was founded in the US itself. Our Asia Pacific headquarters is in Singapore, to really look for good innovations like Australia Scientific, and give you opportunities not only in this region, but hopefully potentially in the US region as well. And it's also one of the reasons why we gather everybody in the US for that particular program. Great. And of course you got to meet quite a lot of people at the summit. It was a 3 to 4 day program itself. Quite tiring, I would say. Um,
Very, very tailored feedback. I think you get to also network with other
Sorry.
cohorts. You get to exchange war stories. I think for any founders, no one understands you like another founder.
Yeah.
Sometimes, they understand you more than your life partner does, because they understand the difficulty, especially in healthcare. If you had to innovate, the barriers to entry in developing a medtech startup or a digital tech startup is really, really high. So if you're able to share some workarounds, some shortcuts, some key relationships that you've built that have shown that the traction that you got with your company may be something that another company can use, those are as valuable as the feedback from the judges.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's also one of the reasons why we try to find common or founders with common ideologies and goals to form leadership pods together as well. So hopefully you'll be able to form, I think, a close-knit community with like-minded founders from the same cohort itself. Okay, and then after that, I think everybody flew home, right? And we began two very big key components of the virtual portion of the accelerator, which was, I think, one, the mentorship portion, and two was the webinar portion of the accelerator program. And I think for the mentorship portion, our strategics will actually select the companies that they would like to mentor. And I think maybe not so coincidentally, BD actually selected Australia Scientific to mentor you guys as well. So maybe share with our audience a little bit more about how that mentorship went with BD and how that entire process potentially shaped you guys now.
Yeah, so I think that mentorship, if we had one strategic that could mentor us, I think we struck gold with BD because they have a large urology division and we're in the space of incontinence, which is urology. They have durable medical equipment components, which we have a component of, and they have ability to service within urology as well. But not only that, the specific person that we were positioned within BD had worked on the predicate technology of our device. So we're a 510K solution. So we're going to get 510K pathway towards clearance. And one of the devices that are predicate is called the Urgent PC, percutaneous tibial nerve stimulator. And the person that worked at BD that we were paired with was actually one of the lead engineers of the Urgent PC stimulator that worked under the inventor, Dr. Marshall Stoller. And you couldn't ask for a better person to understand the unmet needs. And he completely understood why we had made advances in percutaneous tibial nerve stimulation technology. When they invented PTNS 20 plus years ago, it was limited to an in-person, in-clinic procedure that had to be done specifically by a urologist, correct and accurate needle placement of the electrode, and the patient would have to come in every week. But as you can imagine, with the development in digital technology, miniaturization, and artificial intelligence and machine learning, what we've been able to develop is a change not in the effectiveness of the technology, but in the ability to access and scale access to more patients. Suddenly we can take something that took a doctor 45 minutes and we've converted it into a 45-second review for the doctor. And for the patient, it's something that they used to have to travel in person every week to a clinic. Now they can do it in the comfort of their own homes. And getting someone that understood that and validated that, hey, that was always the intention of what we wanted our predicate technology to be, was so validating. And it was a big relief that we're doing it justice, because there could be potential where you're coming in as a disruptor and the incumbent really resists and says, hey, you're no different to us. But if your incumbent is saying that, yes, this is exactly what we've always dreamt our technology to one day become, and technology is finally caught up, it's extremely validating. So that was one aspect in finding the right person to give us the right advice, because it told us this whole story of the origin of why they developed it, and then what they wish they could have developed. And I think we kind of took a lot of that advice and go, yes, exactly. That's how we're going to incorporate new technology to enable greater market access of this therapy.
No, I think it's a tremendously good coincidence as well. That we were definitely able to find that right person to be able to talk to you and become your mentor. So I think we are really grateful for that as well. And maybe just to satisfy my own curiosity as well, right? Because we know you're from BD previously. Did you already know this person beforehand or?
I haven't had experience at BD. I worked at Boston
Oh,
side, East
Boston,
Boston.
right, right.
So no, I did not know this person previously. And this person was actually someone with domain expertise that didn't know anything about MedTech Innovators. It was the MedTech Innovator, I guess BD
Mm,
contact that knew this person and said, "Wow, I found this company that's working on something that you used to do. You should come mentor them."
mm. And would you want to talk to this person and all that? Mm,
Exactly. So they went out of their way to find the right person within the whole strategic organization. And BD's a multi-billion-dollar market cap
that's
company to be able to have someone, advocate for you and try and find the right expert within a multi-billion-dollar company. So, it speaks volume at the commitment of what that person
mhm.
was willing to do.
And how often did you get on the call with BD during that 4 month time period?
So we kept to a cadence of every 2 to 3 weeks.
Mm,
Some of the requests that we made, because we had the opportunity, was to really go in depth in their R&D and regulatory strategy, and they brought experts from the regulatory affairs. Um, Obviously, we wanted to see whether there was potential market fit
mm,
within BD as a partnership, as a potential future distributor.
mhm,
I think what we're looking to build is a company that can continue to scale.
mm,
Um, and having a partner like BD that has core points around the world will help us do that and accelerate that significantly. So, we're in discussions now to be positioned to have a discussion with their corporate venture arm to see how
mm.
we could potentially get an investment or how we could potentially work with them.
Yeah, so I think what you've mentioned really embodies maybe what we try to achieve at MedTech Innovator as well, which is really to take really, really good startups like yourself and really position them quite front and center of relevant strategics so that you can benefit one another as well. And the 4 month mentorship, I wouldn't say it's a long mentorship. I wouldn't say it's a really short mentorship as well. But I think you've really strategically used the mentorship to build that initial relationship and have those initial conversations that hopefully will then be able to lead to that partnership in the future as well.
I think it's what you put into it. It's sometimes it's just a product market fit. It's whether there's a mentee mentor fit as well. And it's really what you make of it. At the end of the day, I think that I did hear a lot of hesitations from some founders to go, oh,
Mm,
I don't really want to speak to a strategic. They may steal my IP.
mm,
Uh, I don't want to limit myself to one strategic because that might limit me from being able to form relationships with other strategics. I think that there's some reservations there, and it's wise to have some reservations. But I don't think strategics are in the game of stealing an early startup's
mm,
intellectual property. So I think, there are not going to be any NDAs signed, but
mm.
decision making within a multi-billion-dollar organization to start a project isn't going to be predicated because they're looking to steal intellectual property
Yes, that's
from.
no, it's very wise of you to say this as well. And I guess just to maybe set the right expectations for our viewers as well. When you first got to know that you got that mentorship with BD, I think you were very excited. Was there any expectation that, oh, at the end of the 4 months, we're gonna sign something, we're gonna be acquired or anything along those lines?
No, I think that would be false expectation, I would say. I think relationships takes time. You don't necessarily want to marry the first person you date. And it comes with cautious optimism that something could progress from it. But it's really about understanding who the decision makers are and understanding, yes, this person is within business development. Do they have the capacity to make decisions on investments, on partnerships, or should you rather form it to, hey, I'm going to build this relationship, and can you introduce me to someone that has the decision-making capability to make an investment decision? Because that's a separate relationship that founders have to make. And the dynamics of that relationship could be completely different to the person that we were introduced to in R&D. Would it help if that R&D engineer gave you a recommendation to the venture arm and said, hey, these guys are working really well. They've developed something that I know intimately, and it's warranted that we explore a potential investment? I think that's going to speak volumes. But is the R&D engineer going to be the one making an investment decision? It's probably not. So understanding the scope of who the advisor is, what their role is within the company, what decisions they're capable of making, and who they can influence is important for the founders to understand. And it's these little steps that and the relationships you build with each individual that will allow you to get to the goal that you want. It may not necessarily to be acquired. Some founders want to build to IPO. That's also okay. Some founders are building because they just want to see their product in as many patients as possible because there's so many patients suffering from the condition. Partnering up with a strategic that has call points, again, all around the world will minimize the time for you to get to become a global company.
No, fair point. And thank you so much for answering that question because I think it's a question we get all the time from startups when they first enter into that conversation with strategics, right? What to expect and after 4 months, can I get this miraculous result? And I think you've brought up exactly what we've always been sharing with you guys, right? It's about building that relationship, finding the right person, getting internal champions because these organizations are huge, and decision is fairly not made by one person, but by a collective. And you want as many of these internal champions as possible to be able to point you eventually to the right person when you are at the right stage for that conversation as well. But thank you so much for sharing that with us as well. Of course, I'm sure you're still in contact with BD, even though we have concluded our 2025 program itself.
Indeed, when we're in contact with Johnson & Johnson, with Teleflex, all the strategics could become potential partners.
That's right.
I think pragmatically, if founders can understand that medtech companies, the large manufacturers of medtech, yes, they innovate medical technology. Yes, they acquire medical technologies, but at its core, they're a sales and marketing engine that gets technology to patients. If you can appreciate that having a multi-billion-dollar sales and marketing organization will help you get your product to the patient, that really unlocks your ability to do partnership. And you see it from a lens that, hey, they may not have a division, but they may have the right call point. There's opportunities there. As founders, maybe of early stage startups, we focus a lot more on the tech and how we're going to get it to approval. And we don't mature it to the stage where we look at the call points, the marketing strategy, the sales strategy. At its core, if you want your products to be used by clinicians, to be used by patients, that is what you have to evolve to. And these, multi-billion-dollar manufacturers have done it really well.
Yeah, completely agree with your golden nuggets of wisdom. Thank you for sharing. And of course, the second portion of the virtual accelerator is really on the webinars that we run, right? So MedTech Innovator, as what Frederick has mentioned earlier, we run a series of 10 webinars that are specifically targeted to each cohort companies, right? And we run through really quite a wide array of topics, and we try our very best to bring in a speaker from Asia Pacific and a speaker from the US that will be able to compare and contrast, I think, the opportunities and the challenges from both hemispheres, for founders to then decide, what would be a good next step, right? A reasonable next step that is achievable, along their strategy plans as well. Were there any webinars in particular that you felt stood out to you?
Yes, reimbursement, the golden nugget of coding coverage and payment. Just because you have coding doesn't mean you will have coverage. Because you have coding and coverage doesn't mean you'll get reimbursed. And just because you have reimbursement doesn't mean you'll get paid. So this multi-layer understanding of the complexities and who the decision makers in each of those steps was super interesting. The idea around starting to do volume-based agreement and the realization of value-based healthcare in contracting is really interesting as well. Yeah, I think that has been the most standout for me, and as well as the clinical trials and how to get your product. And I think it's two separate matters: how to run a proper clinical trials efficiently, and how to create a clinical trial for regulatory strategy. And two very different things. So being able to go, yes, this clinical trial, we're going to be using it specifically to get clearance or approval, and that's why we have to design it this way. And we may need to do another clinical trial for health economics. We may need to do another clinical trial to show further indication expansion. And the design of that is all going to be completely different. I also really appreciated the regulatory strategy. The FDA, yes, it is probably the regulatory body that you want to get approval through, and getting through specific programs such as an accelerated program because you're a safer technology will be really interesting. Getting through all the different potential programs for you to get through a faster pathway to approval is really golden nuggets that we've utilized for our strategy.
And I guess because Australia Scientific, you guys are a bit more unique as well, right? You started out in Asia, and you're expanding very rapidly towards the US as well. And so I think you've also come to realize the differences between what's happening in the US and Europe, and I guess some of the challenges and opportunities in Asia as well. And I think hopefully in the webinars we are able to, I think, give you that duality of perspective, so that hopefully you can make better decisions at the same time.
Definitely, and there's nothing like the experts that you do bring on board. Some of them are from strategic, some of them run their professional consulting suite. Having someone with the expertise, but that can also give you a quote of how much things could cost will help you manage your capex and how much you raise, when you raise, how much you should raise. I think founders should be a bit more aggressive in getting what those fees and figures are, so they can better rationalize their burn rate, how much to raise and when to raise.
Yeah, and I guess what kind of services that you think you would need, and kind of the scope that they would cover, and do a lot of this homework a lot in advance, right? So that by the time you need it, you're ready, and you're able to activate all these things at the point in time you need them, instead of when you need it to really then go out and find it, and that consumes not only just time but money as well.
Exactly. I think if you're looking to raise money, if you don't already understand how you're going to spend the money and you've already engaged the right experts, the likelihood of you getting an investor becomes lower. Investors want to know that you already have someone that's consulting you for your IP strategy, for your reimbursement strategy, for your market access strategy, for your regulatory approval strategy in Japan, because that's where the investors from. In Europe, because even EU MDR is really complex, or how we should be leveraging US FDA to enter other markets for harmonization.
Yep. So definitely agree with you. You've been sharing a lot of wisdom. So thank you so much for that as well. Of course, after the webinar series, we then invited everybody to our grand finals and showcase in Singapore, where we then selected 4 companies to then pitch for that grand prize. And Australia Scientific was actually the winner. And I'm not sure whether everybody on the webinar knows, but we don't decide who the winner is. It's actually by audience vote. So we get a room of about 300 industry professionals, and all 4 companies really pitch to this crowd of 300, and everybody in the audience will get 1 vote to then determine who we crown as the grand winner itself. And of course, you guys had a tremendously good presentation, and you won. So maybe any words of advice on how to win MedTech Innovator?
How to win MedTech Innovators? It's a lot of it comes down to how much you're willing to put into it, is how much you're going to get out of it. The winners, I would say, year on year, have done a lot of work, intentional work, to contribute to the ecosystem, to self-reflect on the lessons that they get on a week-to-week basis. They attend a webinar. We took the time. We have a daily scrum every day, and our company, after a webinar, we would review the notes. We would see how to implement it within where we're at, how to include it into our quality management system, who should take the lead in really following up with the key expert or the person that presented, what opportunities lay there. But specifically for the pitch, it is an audience vote. So there is a craftsmanship to the storytelling. And what I think helped us win that is we refined our story to be quite personal and to better understand that, yes, you're developing technology, and yes, technology is really complex at times, and there are so many features and benefits. But at the end of the day, you have to rationalize why it matters to the clinician you're building it for, and why it matters to the patient you're building it for. If you're able to communicate how awesome your technology is, but you're not communicating the final impact to the clinician, to the patient, to the provider, to the payers, then you probably aren't able to get across everything that you need to get across to show that your technology and your company can change the world in a positive way.
Yeah, one step at a time. No, thank you so much. And I really like what you mentioned, right? And we do see this year on year, for the not only the winning company, but for the companies that really get the most out of MedTech Innovator. It's really the work that you put in after each of the segments that we do, right? How best to utilize the mentorship, what else can we do to increase this relationship? Or like you mentioned for the webinars, right? What did we learn from this webinar? How can we put this into action? Are we doing something right, or is there something we need to change, right? After hearing what these experts have been saying, and if it's something that we've not done right, can we talk to one of these experts to figure out if down the line we could change certain things to be better and or be more prepared for what the future has in store for us as well. So I really like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. One of the biggest benefits of joining a program like MedTech Innovators is that sometimes you and your founding team, you're a small team usually, or you're starting to scale. We're starting to get to about 15 people now full time. Sometimes it does feel like you're in an echo chamber because you're sharing your own thoughts with the people that are closest to you. And you sometimes get into a cycle where you just agree because we're like, yeah, we're all building this. This is really great. There's nothing like someone that comes in from an external perspective that just shatters your world and you go, no, guys, that's not how you shouldn't be building it that way because of X, Y, and Z. And MedTech Innovators gives you the opportunity to have those external factors question you. And I think it's always good to be questioned as a startup team because sometimes you have too much internal bias and you're building something because you want to build it that way and the whole team agrees with you. So having external parties validate you or invalidate you has been one of the most important things for us to progress and to become better as a company.
No, so I think thank you for putting in as much effort as we do when it comes to getting these good speakers and getting this good content to you. So I think the message that maybe we would like to send to the audience is also how much you, like what Nikki has mentioned, how much you get out of the program is really also a factor of how much you put into the program. And I promise you, we plan a really robust program that has multiple facets to the program that could benefit you in different ways. And it really depends on how you want to take these golden nuggets and really utilize them and benefit not only your company, your technology, but also your strategy itself. We are nearing the hour. Any maybe you shared a lot of advice already, but if there's just one takeaway that you would like for a startup that goes, okay, you know what? I've heard a lot about this. It sounds like a lot. Um, should I really apply? What would you say?
I think if you're seriously a medtech founder or you're in the executive team, the opportunity cost of you not applying is probably higher than you applying. Because it's another 12 months that you wonder whether you could match it with the best. And to get the validation that you need, that you're building something that matters to patients, to payers, to providers, to physicians. So ask yourself, even if you're in early stage, even if you're at ideation stage, getting to product market fit and understanding you're building something that's really going to be able to impact patients and physicians, that should be at the top of your list. If you do anything else before you spend more money, before you attend another course, MedTech Innovators, one, it's free, so the opportunity, there's no cost. So the only thing that's stopping you from doing it is the effort that you actually have to put in. And I guess if you aren't willing to put in the effort now, it's going to be hard for you to become a finalist or a winner when you are admitted to the program.
No, thank you so much. It was really good speaking to you again. And on behalf of our audience, really thank you for sharing, I think, your perspective as a cohort company, right? The benefits that you were able to get into the program. Just a disclaimer, we do not pay our companies to say any of these information. I think it's something that all startups should really consider. So thank you so much for your time. And on behalf of MedTech Innovator and our audience, thank you so much, and a happy new year to everybody.